Good evening and welcome. This is the Lifeline TV show on Equa TV Africa. We discuss legal issues as they affect our day-to-day living. Today we are going to have a very interesting topic, a topic that should interest every one of us. It is sponsorship of candidates in elections. The 2023 general elections are just by the corner, and political parties are making preparations towards these elections. It is important for us to know that generally it is only political parties that can sponsor candidates in elections in Nigeria. There is no provision for independent candidature recognized under the Nigerian law. So today we are going to discuss this topic, and we'll look at what the parties are doing. Is it in line with the law? What does it mean to sponsor a candidate? What is the pathway to that sponsorship of candidates? And with me in the studio today, we'll be discussing this and many more. With me to discuss this in the studio today is a learned gentleman. Mind you, I'm not saying that the rest of you are not learned. Barrister Matthew Godfrey.
Good evening, viewers and Ahile. My pleasure being here again.
And if Barrister Izang Aware misses us, he will join us along the way. If he doesn't, we continue. So, Barrister Matthew, what is sponsorship of candidates in elections? What does it mean to sponsor a candidate?
To sponsor a candidate simply means that a political party identifies with a particular person as its representative in an election. The processes that normally involved with that person must be a member of that political party who has living up to certain expectations in terms of number of years and compliance with the party guidelines and rules and regulations. Now, before being filled, he must also pass through some internal democracy mechanism of that political party. For example, he must go through the status of aspirant to conduct primaries with others. At that stage, he's an aspirant. The person that the party determines or elected as the main field representative in the general election becomes a candidate of a party. Aspirant is a person that seeks or aspires to contest for an election. A candidate is a person that is being selected or elected by a political party to represent it in a general election. So this is the stages of sponsorship. Now, ideally, with the coming of the Electoral Act 2002, like you rightly say, prior to that, we don't have independent candidature as our in the electoral field now. So now there's a slight adjustment under the Electoral Act that an independent candidate can contest for an election and he can stand for sponsorship. In other way, NGOs and individuals can decide to say, I'm sponsoring myself to contest for an election. And this has been uploaded by many people as a very progressive step towards Nigerian electoral jurisprudence.
So now, you said as aspirant and candidate.
Yes.
Please throw more light on the...
By the definition of the Electoral Act under the interpretation section, an aspirant is a person that seeks to contest for an office under a political party. A candidate is a person who has been filled, to represent the party at an election. All aspirants are not yet candidates of their respective political parties. It is until the primaries have been done that they will be seen as a candidate in a general election. At this stage now, those aspiring for governorship, those aspiring for Senate, those aspiring for House of Representatives and other political offices, including the president, are called aspirants. It is after the primary election that they cannot be qualified as candidates to represent their party. In other way, aspirant deals with the intra-party mechanism whereby certain people are elected. But if you become a candidate, you are now contesting with other political parties in the general election.
Okay. So now, what does it require to be an aspirant to the point of contesting to become a candidate?
That's a good question. Like I said earlier on, you must be a member of a political party for a number of certain years. You must also be a committed member that has been persistent and consistent in the affairs of the party. Now, you will have to also comply with certain internal mechanisms of the political party involved. For example, you must be up to date with your dues. You must also buy a nomination, expression of interest nomination form as an aspirant. So once you've done that, you must go also partake through all the internal mechanism schedules, the screening by the political parties, also the issue of conducting the primaries. You must participate. That's why you see in law, any person that does not partake in the primaries lacks the locus to contest on any issue that is pre-election matter, because he's not an aspirant at that stage. It's not a party to the primary. So that is what it involves. Now, however, there are certain exceptions. Some party constitution provides for waiver that, okay, people that may come from other political parties, even though they have not been under our political party for 13 years, we can wait for them to come and contest. So you find out that there are waiver clauses in some constitution of the political parties that allow members who have not been up to a certain number of years, or who have not complied with certain financial commitment of the party, or who are not even members of the party originally, can now come and they can be waived. So these are some of the exceptions that you find to the status of an aspirant. So if you haven't complied with this, you partake in the primaries. The political parties say, you are the winner, so you are the one that will represent us. That's when you assume the state of a candidate, because at that level, you are candidate, so you are contesting with a candidate from another political party, not an aspirant within the members of a political party.
So, let me ask again, what does it take to be an aspirant? You mentioned things like nomination form, expression of interest form, and all these things. What are, just run through the list, what are the requirements, the steps towards becoming or being an aspirant?
Okay.
Is that what they mean by what they are doing now, selling of forms for millions of naira? I mean, hundreds of millions of naira.
In fact, the requirement for aspirant, another requirement of aspirant, thank you for reminding me, is that he must comply with the constitutional qualification for the office he's contesting for. He must be a Nigerian. He must be somebody with a criminal record. He must be somebody that is up to the constitutional age to contest for a particular political office. So they must be compliant with those requirements. Now, aside from that also, with respect to the qualification and expression form, I don't want us to crucify the political parties. The only problem I'm having is that some of the political parties like APC raising their presidential nomination form to 100 million clearly showed how insensitive they are to the plight of Nigerians, and clearly shows that politics is an industry that is interested in wreaking havoc to the detriment of the other sector of Nigeria. Right now, we're having about 20 people that it is said have bought that form. I am not really sure whether the number is 20 or 18. Look at that money. If these people are prompt and punctual to comply with buying that interest form, those monies could be used, could be appropriated or reappropriated towards addressing the issue of ASU strike, towards addressing the issue of salary for workers, towards addressing the issue of industrial strike and other challenges we are having. The same country that is having a low economic output, backward educational tract, high corruption perception index, they are not ashamed to say that this is the money we are buying for political forms. Now, let me tell you one thing. In obtaining that political form, the provision of the Constitution clearly, Electoral Act, clearly specifies the amount. I blame the Electoral Act because 100 million is not above the stipulation of the Electoral Act. But people are looking at the morality of that. If you now raise it to that amount, you are clearly excluding the less privileged. You are clearly saying that politics is a game of those with pocket, not with the game of those with ideas, or not about the rich manifesto, but it's about rich pockets. Now, this is not the issue. And also, you are pushing those people that want to really serve to be subservient or to be under the political prebendalism, that is godfatherism of those that will sponsor them. And that will affect accountability in the course of leadership. Because if a person sponsors you and buys a special a form for you, is clearly saying that he will control you. Now, you find out also there's another dynamism of a political maneuvering that is going on now. You will see that you capture on the newsline that a group bought from 100 million for a particular candidate. Then another person will say a group bought from for this person. The one that made that's trending, that made people laugh and lack some logical connection, is the one that said Nigerian farmers bought a 100 million form for a particular presidential candidate. Then somebody says that if Nigerian farmers have that money, will they be thinking in rainy season of addressing their farming responsibilities or buying a political form for a government that is unfriendly toward farmers, where farmers are facing insecurity, are victims of insecurity as a result of harassment or militia clashes or Fulani harassment attack, where farmers are suffering with the issue of inflation? How could those same farmers again garner to buy money? Another one came and say a Fulani group bought 1 million naira for a form for 100 million form for good luck. And they said no. So this is what happens when you make it. And from the APC angle, they will tell you that it's an attempt on their side to adopt what we call the fiscal measure of social control. They want to see that once they raise the money, it is only people who have the genuine interest of the party that would like to contest. But if you study the rate of compliance with the buying of that electoral form, you will know that there is a plan by certain cabal to buy that form so that when they come into power, they will talk about issue of consensus or vote or impose consensus. But it's quite unfortunate, Ahile.
Sorry, you say when they come into power, at what time?
When they come into the foreplay of the primaries, I mean, as those that have the locus to contest for the primaries. We have about 20 people now, as it is said. Have you ever thought of Ahmed Lawan talking of presidency, contesting the president of Nigeria, the Senate president? No. The arrangement is to the south. Look at how many northerners have bought that form to contest for president. Look at the people in the east. They are even there. Some people sponsoring them, so according to them. Now you ask yourself, why is it that certain people from the north, who according to the zoning formula of APC is not supposed to come to the north, why are they buying form? They are buying that form so as to influence the consensus process or the direct partnership. So you now find out that this is the on the groundwork that has been done. Because you ask yourself, the zoning principle is that it's to south. Why are people from the north buying presidential form? They want to influence the primaries. And my question there is that APC appear to be talking about consensus candidate. They want a consensus. But they should be careful. I say in the other outlet that the consensus is not as we thought. If you go through the letters of this section 84 sub 9 of the Electoral Act 2022, it states that where you are to conduct a consensus, it must be agreed in writing by all the aspirants, in their writing, not verbal, that we have considered and agree that this person should be our consensus candidate. Within the precinct, within the parameters of that section 84.9, there is no reference to political party conducting or National Working Committee of Political Party or NEC of political party performing or being empowered by law to conduct or to actualize consensus. That's why I took you interpretationally wise by telling you who is an aspirant, telling our listeners who is an aspirant, who is a candidate. it is clearly the issue of the aspirant to determine who is a consensus. Who is a consensus, who should be a consensus candidate among them. And it must be in writing. Now, section 84 sub 10, which is the neighboring section, preceding section after 84.9, clearly state that where the parties are not able to reach consensus, to arrive at a candidate by consensus, they can resort to either direct primaries or indirect primaries. So you ask yourself, what is the reason behind APC now trying to say that before you submit a nomination form, you must attach a withdrawal form?
Well, don't you think it is to muzzle the power of the aspirants to insist on that? Because now you say it is when you are an aspirant that you can challenge a pre-election, you can institute a pre-election action.
Yes.
Now, if you have withdrawn by submitting a withdrawal form, it means you are no longer a candidate.
But that is where the violation of the law come into being, Ahile. Have you asked yourself, is that withdrawal form, does it apply to those that are aspiring for House of Assembly in APC, State Houses of Assembly? Does it apply for members of House of Representatives? Does it apply to senators? Does it apply to governors? Why is it that it only applies to president? This got to tell you that in the parameters of Nigerian constitutional analysis, this is also defective, because if one yardstick is applied to a particular group and another group does not have that, it's what we call discrimination. It is against the principle of equity in the Nigerian constitution. So that policy on that ground on itself is discriminatory. Then secondly, the nomination form is statutorily provided for in the INEC.
Yes.
The Electoral Act clearly specifies what a presidential interest form should imply. It does not specify that you must attach a withdrawal letter by candidates. No, that is not the rendition of the law. And you can see some political pundits that of APC that were trying to mislead them, is to say that this is an internal affair of party, and so court or any other cannot. But no, where the internal affairs of party is affecting fair hearing, is against constitutionalism, it can be overthrown. Look at the issue now. Why am I withdrawing for? It's just like saying that you are giving somebody an admission in the university to study a course, and the moment he's submitting his form details, then you will ask him now to fill in a rustication form or withdrawal form from the university. I have not entered the university. I have not decided whether I have not done year one, I have not gone through year two, I have not decided whether I will withdraw. You are always giving me a withdrawal form. It doesn't. And you look at it from the common law perspective, in terms of contract, it is simply a fraudulent act. When you ask somebody to say yes and no, to appropriate and reprobate, simply you cannot do that. That idea, whoever may have birthed it, should have known that it is against the Nigerian constitutional principle.
But now, of all these candidates, none of them is a minor.
Yes.
Interestingly, there are lawyers amongst them. There are administrators amongst them and all, people who are well exposed. They are not complaining about this thing. I guess the implication is that you, at any time, that withdrawal form can be brought to bear. It is now in abeyance. It can be brought to bear at any time to show that you are withdrawing from the contest. So, can it not be said that the people are adults, they are people of age, and they have willingly decided that the party it's as good as saying, party, I'm ready to drop at any time. You can raise the form and bring it to bear as it relates to me. Don't you think that's what they are saying?
This is not what they are saying. This may appear to be what they want to portray. The people that are buying that form, even if they feel that form, that's what I was telling you, that if you look at the event, people who are not ordinarily supposed to have bought that form are buying the form.
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
Why, when have you ever heard the Senate president discussing his ambition to become a president of Nigeria?
Maybe that has never been his ambition.
That has never been his ambition. Just overnight, he just woke up and started buying a form. You have to ask yourself why. Because they know among the stakeholders that are really interested, the people who are supposed to buy this from the South are skeptical about it. So why are you asking, for example, Professor Osibanjo, an erudite, enigmatic scholar, and an advocate, to do that? Do you think that they don't have their reserves? They have their reserve. The only thing is that it can equally be challenged, that letter could equally be challenged by a person who is an APC member or a person who feels disenfranchised, even though he's not there. Because it is a process that affects the integrity of Nigeria electoral process. One, like I said earlier on, the nomination form that is specified in the electoral act does not provide for attachment of withdrawal form as a condition precedent. It says submit your interest form. Does INEC guideline provide that if are we submitting the nomination form to APC or we are submitting it to INEC? In submission of nomination form, it is INEC monitors the primaries. Yes. You purchase the nomination form, supposed to take it to INEC. Does INEC specify that you are bringing withdrawal letter? Why is the party...
Sorry, is it to INEC or to the party? Because
you bring it to the party.
At this level, it is within the party.
It is within the party.
The party only calls INEC to come and observe.
Now, it called INEC to come and observe. After the observation, the nomination form of whoever may have been the president qualifier must be submitted to the INEC. But party APC constitution does not provide for the submission of nomination form with withdrawal letter. It has never been part of APC constitution. Maybe they may have said in the National Working Commission or National Executive Commission to reach that decision with respect to presidency. Then we are asking, why is it only the presidents? Why doesn't that apply to other contestants? That's what we're talking about, discriminatory. So you look at it from that angle to say, okay, who inspired APC? Let's look at it from the issue of law, from the issue of morality, from the issue of common sense. Just like you are now going, you pay for services, you book your flight tickets, and at the same time, you are now booking for cancellation. It could not be. It's not ideal. So these are some of the challenges you have associated with the electoral processes. Now, they have to be careful because if we don't follow the due process, the fate that happened in Zamfara and other places may likely happen. We may not know, we don't know whether they will extend that decision to other electoral offices like House of Representatives or Senate. But what we are saying is that the procedure with regard to the Constitution, with regard to the President, is uncalled for. It's against the grain of morality, and again, the issue of justice is not there.
But why do you think the aspirants are not challenging this?
Let me tell you. You see, when you are in courtship, there are certain things that you don't disclose. It is marriage that discloses the reality of life. These people are now courting so that they will be friendly towards the party. But as I'm talking to you now, you don't know their arsenal. Let's go, because I'm telling you, they study the Constitution, they are advised. Even if they buy this from now, they can challenge the validity of that withdrawal letter. Remember what I told you about the provision in Section 84, sub 9. Withdrawal letter is not a condition as stipulated by the Act. It is the party's purported internal affairs that want to that want to outsmart the Constitution and the Electoral Act. And I say that cannot go anywhere. So they know they can submit it and they will wait. Whether you can say that by this withdrawal letter, it has substituted the requirement of a written consent by aspirant to adopt a consensus candidate under Section 80.
Well, for me, I'm not looking at it as a consent for consensus, but a withdrawal. Now, if I go, just like you gave an example of gaining admission before, if someone is offered admission and then the person is rusticated, or the person has withdrawn, or somebody bought an air ticket to go to the UK, and then he now submitted cancellation of that flight. Can he, for instance, sue that airline if he fails to take him to UK? He cannot, because he has cancelled the issue. So for me, I'm not looking at it as a pathway to consensus candidature. I'm looking at it as a pathway to the party saying A, B, C, D have withdrawn. It's remaining only E. So and they have already submitted their withdrawal.
Who is that A?
Whoever they arrive at.
That is where
the issue of saying it is not by consensus will not come to play, because it is not, they didn't follow the consensus procedure. The other people have withdrawn their aspirantship. They are no longer aspirants. One is remaining, and that one has continued. This is different from consensus. Don't you think so?
No, it's not different from consensus. Now, if you look at it, in the direct primaries, who conduct the activities? The general public. In the indirect, you find out it is the representatives of the party. Now, in consensus now, it is the aspirant amidst themselves. So if you look at the gimmick that's following this withdrawal form, you ask yourself, if the parties, the direct primary is to be conducted by all members of the parties nationally, why do I need withdrawal form? They can vote for me. If it is indirect by the state representative, national representative, and delegates, why do I need withdrawal form? But just like you said, you aptly capture it with a high sense of imagination that I never attempted to. Maybe one candidate does not submit his form or withdrawal form. Probably could that be the candidate that they are saying is an anointed candidate? And now if that comes into being, you ask yourself, is that not discriminatory, whereby 10 people submitted their own nomination form or withdrawal form, and then one person did not submit? So how is that constitutional? This is what the law will be looking at. That is why then you look at also the provision of the law. Even if they are contemplating consensus, you can submit. And the consensus there is not to be conducted by parties. So by the fact that a party has asked you to fill a withdrawal form, is not a guarantee that you have waived your right to exercise consensus.
We'll talk more on this withdrawal form when we return from the break. We'll go on a short break now, and we'll be back. Don't forget, when we come back, you can also call to make your input, ask questions, make comments on this discussion. Welcome back. This is the Lifeline on Equa TV Africa. We were talking about the issue of withdrawal form, which the APC is selling its expression of interest and nomination forms along with, as you pick expression of interest form and nomination form, they also give you a withdrawal, which has the effect of being raised every day, any day, to say you are no longer a candidate. And the guest has said so much about it. Meanwhile, our phone lines are open. You can make your input, you can make contributions and questions. So, Barrister Matthew, I'm still looking at it that it may not even be that one person is not submitting nomination form. In the past, they were doing those things, but in hiding. As you submit the form, you also write an undertaking that you are withdrawing, that may not be dated, to be undated. So it could be dated any day. So it could come as though you had decided to withdraw after you dropped in, or after you turned in your expression of interest and nomination form. So that even after your candidature has been submitted, it could still be brought to show that you have withdrawn, and then you'll be substituted. Now, this withdrawal form, it may not be that 10 people both form with withdrawal form and 9 are returning it. One person is not. All of them will return. But the party may decide to even tear off all the nomination forms, the withdrawal forms. Yes. Or they will raise it and say, this person has withdrawn. And you have filled and signed your own signature. You cannot not say it's not true. And then the person whose withdrawal form is not brought up will now be there. Whether he has submitted it or not. They may decide to remove it from the records.
Now, remember, it was events like that that brought Amechi into power. When, for example, now, somebody that has not submitted his form or has not submitted his withdrawal form as a condition precedent to be fully qualified as an aspirant into either the primaries, direct or indirect, or consensusship, you are going to be affected as a person that have not fully participated in the primaries. Now, aside from that also, you look at it, why do you need withdrawal form if the election is going to be primaries, either direct or indirect? You also look at it from another angle. The issue now of submitting nomination form, thanks to this Electoral Amendment Act, there's a slight variation. There are forms that you fill stating that all the information you have given with respect to this election are what?
True.
Are true. So assuming but not conceding that this form later on as a candidate of a political party, an opponent from other political party got those information and challenged it in the court of law that you are not qualified to contest for the election as a candidate of a political party because you earlier had a withdrawal form. How would that be to the party? So there are certain things that we should be careful about doing. Do you think that all the people that submitted this political party have interest of the political party at heart? Some people are there so that if there's any fracas, the preferred candidate will use that to harm him, to hurt the party, and to jeopardize the success of the party. Some people are there for vendetta and retaliation. So the APC will be careful. Allow the democratic process to flow. Don't bring other hitches that will show hidden agenda. That's my candid advice on this issue.
Yeah. Now, we'll go to the issue of, section 84, subsection 4?
12.
Oh, section 12, sorry, of the Electoral Act that required political appointees to resign their appointments 1 month to the conduct of party primaries, which there was a judgment striking down that section and directing the Attorney General to delete it from the law, though in controversial circumstances. Now, that judgment, where does it stand now?
In fact, there are two things that happen with that judgment as of now. One, there was an order of stay of execution of that judgment. And by that, it has been appealed. And happily today, the Court of Appeal struck out. The Court of Appeal dismissed the judgment that was given by whether High Court Ebonyi or High Court somewhere Aba.
Aba, yeah.
It was, the Court of Appeal said that the judgment was given in error. And as I'm talking to you now, the judge and the parties involved may be undergoing disciplinary procedure. Now, simply put, that law is restored to its normalcy under section 84 sub 12, that any appointee, political appointee, shall not participate in any of the election, either primary, secondary, or general election, until he resigns from his political appointment. The problem that we are seeing now is the media sensationalization that leads to confusion about who is a political appointee. Somebody just called me and was asking as to whether does that include the governors, does that include the senators, does that include, say no. Political appointees are different from political elected office holders. It does not affect governors. It does not affect members of House of Representatives. It does not affect members of House of Assembly. That section is clearly particular about political appointees. And who are political appointees? Those that are appointed by political office holders to render certain special services to them based on their area of expertise. We normally call them technocrats. Like you look at the example, for example, if you have a special advisor on education, if you appoint commissioners, if you appoint ministers, if all of them are on the political appointee. That is why in labor law, we classify them as appointee, we classify them as employers at the pleasure of the master. The master can sack them anytime, you can ask them to resign. Incidentally, when this judgment was the appeal court set aside the judgment of Court of Abad, deleting section 84 sub 12, the president also clearly gave a directive that Amici, other ministers should resign before contesting. The problem now we are now having is that before they declare, they are most of them are in violation of the law before the coming of this judgment. Malami has already, the president that he declared his intention. Amici has declared his intention. We don't know. I'm not sure. Have they bought their nomination form?
Yes, some have.
So those that have bought the nomination form are caught up by that provision. So failure to do so is clearly an affront on the provision of Electoral Act. It's offensive, so they must face the consequences. It's something that you can use as a pre-election challenge to say that he bought and submitted presidential while he was still a political appointee, and that violates section 84 sub 12 of the Electoral Act.
Sorry, I thought the import of that section is that such persons have to resign at least 1 month to the day of the primary election, not necessarily purchase of expression of interest and nomination forms.
The resignation is a condition before you do anything. So even before you buy that form, you are expected to resign before you can participate in any of the election. It does not say whether you are participating as a delegate alone. A delegate is there to vote for an aspirant. For you to become an aspirant, you must clearly make sure that you have a neutral ground. And what is the import of that law? The import of that law is that they don't want people that are appointed as ministers or governors or commissioners or special advisors to influence the political activities, to see how they can influence the primary. We have seen a video going viral whereby the Attorney General of Federation Malami, it was alleged she was sharing cars. I don't know whether you saw the video, that he was sharing cars to delegates. These are what this section sought to prevent. So it is not only 1 month to the end of the primaries, but it's also talking about issues. Now, even if it's 1 month to the conduct of primaries, APC are pleading with INEC now to extend the primaries. PDP are pleading with INEC to extend. The INEC say no, we are not going beyond June 3rd or June 16th of this month. So you now find out that even some of them that bought that form are not done that before the 1 month. So you now see there was an assumption that everything goes, but the Electoral Act has come. If our judiciary should be bold, it should be able to sanitize the system. The same approach that our judiciary adopt in checking defections by a parliamentarian should be adopted also in checking the rascality and neglect for the respect of the rule of law, especially electoral acts. Political appointees that think that they are invincible, they can do and undo, and abuse the rule of law and do whatever they feel like. The judiciary should be there to tell them, yes, we are there to check your excesses and ensure that the rule of law is promoted.
Yeah. Now, the issue of independent candidates. Now, how does that help the system? Don't you think that can check the excesses of parties who are selling nomination form along with withdrawal form?
I agree with you. But you see, the problem we will challenge of independent candidature is now, it is starting. It is a novel idea. It is a virgin land that is about to be cultivated. So it needs a structure. We need to look at what type of independent candidature are we going to have. Are we going to have an ideological, because one of the ideas behind independent candidature is to have a clear-cut ideology that will galvanize people. They don't want the issue of godfatherism. They want a politically conscious party, that a candidate that will promote a particular ideology. If, for example, we have an independent candidate that will say that my vision is food security and agricultural progress of Nigeria, which means talking about his ideology is what? Friendly toward farmers. He can get people that will really support him, not the one that is in CBN, and then farmers will be buying forms for him. These are some of the people that you will see ideologically oriented party. But as of now, I am happy also. I saw a lady on LinkedIn saying that she's coming to contest for president of Nigeria under an independent candidacy, and we say that would be a good idea because it is testing, it's a novel ground that we want to test. So people will come to say that as an independent candidate, I want to contest for president based on the fact that I'm representing certain marginalized set of people in the country. They can't get it there. So you find out that it's a time, and sometimes we can equally have, apart from the ideological, you can have a conscientious independent candidate. People that will come as a group and say that we want to support this young person, not too young to rule, not only in PDP, not in APC, not only in YPP. We want a new Nigerian, somebody that can be all accommodated. So this is the idea behind. But the challenge we are going to have this time around is, I thank God for the ruling of the Supreme Court that reduced the number of the political parties. There should be a legal framework to also checkmate the qualification for who can be an independent candidate and under what circumstances it could be allowed.
Yeah, but this issue of independent candidature, you see that even with political parties, several times you find a situation where INEC struggles with putting all the political parties on the ballot paper.
Yes.
With independent candidature that individuals can rise up and contest. Talking about ideology, it is not hard for Nigerians to craft ideology. You could see in two days, somebody will bring up wonderful ideologies that will shock everybody. It is the implementation that is the issue. So now, don't you think that will complicate the entire process?
That was why I said earlier on that I appreciate the judgment of Supreme Court that reduced the number of political parties in favor of INEC, that INEC has the power to reduce the number of political parties. Even the independent candidate, INEC can still outline some rules and regulations governing them. You can also see that one of the challenges that independent candidates will have is the requirement of Section 221 of the 1999 Constitution. If you are 221 of the 1999 Constitution, we provide that no association should have access to power unless it has a national reflection, it has a headquarters in Abuja, it has, all those issues. So you ask yourself now, independent candidature, does that section apply to independent candidature? So these are some of the constitutional issues you will be looking at, and ask further, what has INEC done so far to regularize? If we say 10 people are coming under independent candidature, like you said, so there must be a streamline to find out. And I think we should be, the best way we can be able to do that is to see how independent candidature should be restricted. They should be able to sit down and come up with a framework of assessing which independent candidature should be able to be filled on a candidate, and other party mechanism that we are talking about. What are their internal democratic structures? What does the Constitution say? And most of those, how does it operate? It's a novel system that we are waiting on our betas to show us the way for, so that it can be exploited. If not so, people may blindly go in, and during election petition, after a general election, people will find out that there are a lot of issues that is associated with the concept.
Yes. Now, the other time we discussed the third force, coming away from PDP and APC. Now, the time for primaries is fast coming to a close. How has are there indications that a third political party will emerge, or is it emerging that people are picking nomination forms that they are likely to also have candidates in this election that is coming?
One of the wonderful contributions of President Olusegun Obasanjo to the politics of Nigeria in the recent years is the concept of third force that he sought to brought in. And I think it aligns with Dora Akunyili's notion of branding Nigeria, rebranding Nigeria, if you remember at that time. What he's trying to say as a third force is not necessarily the issue of a political party. We are trying to see that, can we have a political force that will be independent of the same people that have permeated the system from the Second Republic up to this dispensation? Can we have another new test of politicians? Can we have another new men that will come with new idea? If you look at the issue, I'm talking to you, Nigerians are now saying that Atiku has been there. What does Tinubu want? Some of them, what does Tinubu want? All these Osibanjo, most of them, they say, Peter Obi has a fresh touch. Then another person saw Akinwumi, and he says, Akinwumi has a fresh touch. These are people that Nigerians are saying that these people, they have a good track record, and they are not enmeshed in the long-term political gimmicks and the dirty deals that are on the ground. Most of the people that are contested, you find them, they have the issue of consistency and integrity check. Somebody was in APC, he came to PDP. Somebody was in PDP, he came to APC. Somebody was in AC, about jump. So they're saying that let's give a new approach to leadership so that people that are not buying into the idea of PRP or NPN or UPN, and they are in NRC, SDP, they are in PDP, and now let's give people that new crop of people that have different ideology. So that is ideally, that's partly my own conception, what the notion of the third force implies. So you find out that it is not really a political party. And I don't see independent candidature as a solace or implying the emergence of third force. Like I tell you, we still have a work to do about independent candidature. We need to enlighten people what it entails. Must it have a political office in Abuja? Must it also be another branch of political party? Must it be streamlined in such a way that it must have national structure, or just somebody can wake up and say that I am an independent candidate, I want to buy? It has its advantages, and it also in Nigerian politics need to be streamlined in the interest of public order.
But do you really think that a third force can thrive in Nigerian politics? Not outside of APC and PDP. Because now, you go to PDP, you have all these people are there. The chairman, at least Senator Yochia Ayu was senator
in the Second Republic.
Not Second Republic, in the transition of Babangida. And he's been there. He was minister in Obasanjo's government, and he has continued to be one thing or the other. Now he is the chairman. In APC, you have Abdullahi Adamu, that was, I think, MPN chairman.
Yes, he was there.
In the Second Republic,
during the
then Plateau State. So, and he's been there. He became a governor when democracy returned in 1999 and did 8 years, and then in the Senate, and then eventually so they are there. Can any force function in PDP or APC away from those ones that have always been there and have, permit me to say, messed up the country?
Let me be honest with you, the process is unveiling. As I'm talking to you now, the emergence of people like Ezekwelesi, Aisha Yusuf, that pragmatic lady, all these people are now trying to bring up certain, if you look at the structure of YPP now, how YPP is getting momentum now is better than the former YPP, you know, in 2011 or 2015, whose name was omitted on the ballot paper. YPP is getting momentum now. So these are some of the issues that we look. So you find out also a lot of the members of the APC and PDP are not happy with the system. Both PDP and APC are not happy with the system. Some of them, and I should do it due diligence, because we learned that some people are even saying that if they don't have form here, they will go to another place to buy form. So there may be likelihood of a presidential candidate or governorship candidate buying 2 forms. So there is a hope. And Nigerians have suffered through a lot during this regime. And so it is bringing a new orientation about them on leadership. But the youth must take a center stage in the revolution towards that force.
In 30 minutes, what are your final words?
I wish our
30 seconds, sorry.
I wish our democracy success towards 2023 general election.
Viewers, this is where we draw the curtain for tonight. Do keep a date with us next week, Wednesday by 6 p.m. Thank you for staying with us and have a wonderful evening.